Started here, and we are recording. We are on Films Gone Wild. We're going to talk about the film Dramarama with Jonathan Wysocki. Um, you know, my instant comparison to the movie of a movie that I just adore and will watch, every other year or so and come back to it is Camp, because it just has, it that level of young entertainer person angst and self-importance and drama. It just all was there, and I just loved it, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
No, absolutely.
I hope that it will be as much of a cult classic as Camp. That is a high.
Right. Oh my God. Well, and also, and I will say also, I I just barely, when I was in high school, dabbled with the thespian community, but then I went to, and this is in South Florida, I went to performing arts high school my senior year. So, so again, I knew each one of these damn kids that we had here. And I don't know that I was absolutely one of them, because I was such a driven, type A Renaissance man in my own mind, kid. But I definitely was in that group. I definitely was in that community.
That's amazing. I love that.
So tell me, one, because I kind of have an idea, but tell me why you decided this needed to be a movie.
I had gone through a number of different feature projects that fell apart, and I had seen a number of friends who, crowdfunded to make a feature. And so I was like, okay, I just have to, instead of waiting for someone else to make these other scripts, I just need to make something myself, or otherwise I'm never going to break this first feature, thing.
Right.
And so I knew I needed to make it small and manageable in terms of the size of it. But I also knew, well enough that you're with a film for years, and you better certainly be in love with whatever you're going to be putting on that screen, because, it's going to be a lot of work and you don't want to get sick of it. And so, I really sort of thought carefully about, okay, what do I really care about? And one of the things I really care about are my friends, and the friends that I made in high school that I'm still close with. And I really kind of unpacked who we were, and, read my high school diary to try to figure out who I was back then. And it just seemed like there was this lightning in the bottle type of thing in terms of that energy of the drama nerd, but also with the fear that was based around this sort of conservative upbringing that we had.
Right.
That I just didn't feel like I had seen in a film, particularly with the sort of sexual repression and how that sort of manifested in theatrics, where it was like, oh, I'm, no sex before marriage, but I'm going to, do an improv where we pretend to be homosexuals in this bedroom and we're all going to laugh about it. It just seems so specific and strange that I felt like I had something that was maybe a little unique as a coming of age film to try to put together.
Right. Well, and here's, I have to say the one thing that differed, from my experience, and I was very fortunate that it differed my experience, that I did not have his eye upon you, that religious thing, and I remember, because I was thinking about this, after I saw the film, I remember at one point, I was, myself and one other guy, we were I think the two straight guys in the drama department, right? Mm-hmm. But everybody knew, everybody knew who everybody was and what have you. And we were fortunate enough to be in that little uh, performance bubble, that bubble that acting and dancing kids or whatever create amongst themselves. And I remember at one point, because I was thinking about this, watching how everybody was talking around, which is such a central point of, how are we going to let out the secrets? Are we going to, is that moment going to come? And I remember one time the group was going to a drag show, and they were bringing me along with them. And I remember, one of the other, my friends who was gay, like come over, and this of course in South Florida, only in South Florida, like this kid, he came up to me and he goes, "I'm going to take care of you. You're going to be fine. I'm going to protect you." Like, because of course,
Right.
being a straight kid, his assumption was that I'd be scared,
Right. That's amazing.
And it was like, you're going into enemy territory, but but I'll be there, because I can speak their language, right? And that's one of the reasons why I think I tied into this so much and connected with it, because that communication, yes, it's in a different way in Dramarama, but there's still that thing of we are each other's protectors, because we're theater geeks, we're movie geeks, we're opera, what have you, and the outside world, we have to protect each other, because otherwise they'll pick us apart one by one.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like that bond stays with you, even if you don't stay with those people. That feeling, I feel like, carries through your adult life as well.
Yeah, I think so. So now that we established where we both come from, talk about, what I think this does a lot of the film does a lot of things very well, and I think one of the things it does, as you've just talked about, you're operating on a very specific budget, and that specific budget is no budget, and so you've got to create a universe, that's real, and yet you don't have a lot to spend on it, and I want you to talk about that, about being the architect of this universe that you are creating on a budget.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a large part of it was creating my own past, which was really important. And so, the resources that I had were what I had hoarded, what I had still kept that was actually in my parents' garage in terms of, items from my past, as well as things that were still in my parents' house. Like, I mean, I went down with the production designer and we raided my parents' home. Like, I mean, they literally had nothing in their living room for a month because we filled a truck with everything that, they had not gotten rid of and not redecorated with. There was this, I mean, I would never in a million years compare myself to Alfonso Cuarón, but there was this great quote from Roma where, when he had been recreating his childhood home in Mexico in that film, there were all these elements from his past that were actually his. And someone was like, why go through the labor of putting that in the frame? No one knows that that's yours. And he was like, I'll know. And that's what matters, is that I'll know. And I really, that was sort of my baseline with recreating everything, was knowing that, that I know that is my phone in that scene. And I know that those are, my clothes on that actor. And I know that, there are all these details that were specific to my past that were there. And obviously that saved money because it was stuff that I already had access to. And so I was being resourceful that way. But I also felt like it was lending maybe a layer of authenticity to something that is hard to get when you're working on a budget sometimes. Because sometimes working on a budget means, a white wall and there's like nothing behind you. And it's like, we don't have the money to put anything on that wall or the time. And so I was definitely conscious of trying to build authenticity by, being resourceful with things that were already in my life.
Well, yeah, and again, I was just talking to the directing tandem for Drought about this yesterday, and about production design on a budget. And yeah, when there are a few things more heartbreaking to someone that really wants to like a film, when they see, like, a scene is taking place in an empty room and there's one degree framed, and you go, oh, we're in a doctor's office because we got that one degree, that, right? And your heart breaks for that filmmaker.
Yeah.
Because dude, I mean, you've got everything else working for you, and yet you couldn't fill the frame. And so it takes me out of it. All right. Well, the second thing I'm also curious is how you successfully have each one of these kids as an archetype. Mm-hmm. Each one of them is a little iconic image of kids that, again, I know you obviously knew. Right. And you've got young actors. And so it's not, you didn't just like pull this out of thin air and just like, it's a pretend person or what have you. You have in your mind, no, I know this girl, she was my bestie. I know this guy, we fought during lunch periods, what have you. Talk about how you imparted that in communicating to them beyond just a script.
I mean, honestly, a huge part of it was just in the script. Was just really, really making sure draft after draft after draft that, I was just sharpening the characters so that it was just clear who these people were. And, in terms of the actors, we got like, I think 4 hours of rehearsal before the film was shot. Yeah. Because, you just can't, they're SAG actors and you don't have the money to pay them. But I was able to meet and have like a lunch or a coffee with each of them. And that was my time to lay out exactly, impart to each actor, this is exactly who I feel you are. This is your character in this, in a verbal form. And if they had any questions about that as well. And then I think the third part about that is really just casting properly. I mean, we saw hundreds of people, and I didn't really care about the way that they looked. I cared about whether or not their base vibe was just going to be a perfect fit for what I was looking for. And, I mean, it's such a cliche to say casting is everything, but it really is, because then when you're on set, you're not like wrestling with a mold that you're trying to fit them into. It's like you already did that work. It's done. Right. And they're already perfect for that role. And so you're not wasting time trying to get them into that persona. Right.
Well, something we could do, a couple chapters of this discussion, because there are I'm obviously a fan of the film, and a lot of the stuff we can dig into. But I also know, we're doing this time to the Naples International Film Festival, but you're also soon to be at Cucaloris. And so we may be doing a sequel of this talk, Jonathan.
Oh, fun. It's so great.
For Cucaloris as well.
I love that. I'm so excited to be in that festival. I've always tried to get my short movies into it, and it feels like a win to get into it. So
listen, the twosome of Naples going into that could not be better homes for this film, for Dramarama. Seriously. Again, we've been talking with Jonathan Wysocki about Dramarama. It's been great having you on Films Gone Wild, and people can stay tuned for the sequel, because there definitely will be one.
Great. Thanks so much, Sean.